There was something that I stumbled across, which was actually a really good description of what we're dealing with in terms of Cardano right now. There's all these different things that are fighting against each other. And it's a question of what is going to be the first to break. Which of these allows us to move, obviously, one way or the other. We're going to discuss that in this video, but I also want to talk about a comment from a viewer that I thought was very well constructed. And I want to address some of these points that pop up here. So if you guys are new or haven't already, show your support for the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So this was entitled Cardano's Tug-of-War, Whales Selling, Retail Holding, Short Circling. And what I want to let everybody know of is the whale selling thing. It's an old reference point, okay? When they're actually referencing ADA whales selling, excuse me, they actually reference some data from all the way back at the end of June. Now, this is whales that hold between 1 billion ADA and more. And we remember there was this huge spike that took place in June, and then this big sell-off that took place right at the end of June. And I want to remind everybody that actually took place right here, right before things went rip-roaring. In fact, when we look at this thing here, for example, you guys can see that they flattened out basically here by July 4th, and then they've been pretty much stagnant. Now, when we look at whale holdings throughout the Cardano ecosystem, they've actually been rising. And in fact, here in 2025, pretty much every group of whales, each breakdown of this, so whales in totality, their holdings have been on the rise, which has been a very good sign. Again, it's a real testament to the conviction in terms of the large holders in the space. They're not here for just a quick buck. They're here to see things develop within the space. They're here to see the launch of Midnight, right? I'm sure they want their allocation of night tokens as well, right? What this also said then, retail traders aren't letting go. In fact, they've been pulling ADA off exchanges for months, a sign that they're more interested in stacking than selling. This is usually bullish. It shows conviction. That's what we've talked about many times before. I'm still working on that, guys. Maybe I can find some free time today to finish that out. But obviously in my earlier video, we talked about how limited supply on exchanges actually is. That's a pretty darn big deal. But what this says is, but not everybody's buying the dip. Over on BitGet, short sellers are stacking up. There's 141.7 million in short positions right now compared to just 74 million in longs. That's nearly double. It paints a clear picture. Leverage traders are expecting more pain. And yeah, this has been the ongoing thing throughout all this drop we've been dealing with here. And it's a part of the reasons why we went on this nice rally up, but it's now part of the reason why we're getting pushed down. It's because these short positions are just opened and opened and opened and pushing and pushing and pushing. And we just haven't had enough confidence in the market to muster up a push to the upside. Now, that being said, the bigger this gets, the more that shorts fill in, the larger the squeeze can be to the upside. That's a really, really big deal. And we've seen this take place many times before. That's why right now, yes, it sucks that we're dropping. And yes, understand that there is the possibility of us going lower. I've seen people mention, 63 cents, 65 cents, 67 cents. All those are technically within the wheelhouse here, especially if we get another couple of ugly days. But the deeper this drops and the more that leverage fills in, the more explosive the candles out of those ranges we can see, right? Just take a look at back here, pressing, and then we had a 14.5% daily candle. Okay. Just even take a look back here in March. I don't know if you guys remember how bearish things were, but we had negative sentiment. And then we responded on the obviously crypto reserve news with an almost 100% daily candle. Okay. That's kind of where we're at here. Now, that being said, there was actually a comment from a viewer that I wanted to discuss. And this is actually CBSL 8424. Appreciate the comment. Now, this is what he said. Now, Cardano faces serious competition from other chains, and the time has changed since it reached its all-time high several years ago. Cardano adoption is lagging behind that of other blockchains, and its price action is diluted by other cryptocurrencies. Now, here's the thing. We have to remember that DeFi adoption, true DeFi adoption, typically takes place later in market cycles. What we've seen throughout this market cycle so far is, people matriculating, people moving from one area to another, from one blockchain to another, testing out all these different areas. And all we've really seen is some of the inadequacies of Ethereum have allowed some other blockchains to take off, ones that already were basically completed, but not complete per se. I'm talking about Solana. I'm talking about Avalanche. I'm talking about Tron, right? Obviously, Tron's been done for a while, but they've had boosts because of different things. Obviously, Solana in the meme coin sector, the launch of Pump Fund. You had Tron with their meme coin launch pad. You had AVAX take some pretty big steps forward as well. But the same thing still exists in all those flaws, right? We talk about downtime. We talk about congestion, right? These are all things that have plagued these other chains since I don't want to say necessarily since inception, but they really become exposed when use is high. And that's what we've seen throughout here in 2025. And here's the thing, the dilution aspect of the crypto market, I've talked about this before, and it's not a thing. If we actually look at the concentration of capital, it's actually the highest it's ever been in the top 100 assets. So yes, there are other chains. Yes, there are other projects, but it hasn't really had this draw away from the top projects in the space that people think that it does. It's kind of an excuse per se. Okay. Now, what he said is another important thing to note is that although Cardano aims for decentralization, its development remains highly centralized now, and a single founder's announcement and news can significantly impact the price of the ADA coin. The Cardano community aims to address this decentralization issue through governance. However, centralization in development efforts is not necessarily a bad thing because the peer review process by definition is an academic process, meaning that only a select group of top experts is involved in the peer review process. I don't see how a governance setting where voting power is weighted by ADA holdings can reconcile with the scientific rigor naturally involved in the academic peer review process, which is predominantly based on the expertise and knowledge of a few individuals in mathematics, coding, and computer science. Well, here's the thing with first of all, with decentralization, with governance, you could actually dictate who is building for the network. There could be a smaller, different group of developers that could be voted on by the community to help with the development of the Cardano blockchain. We haven't done that, right? This is kind of the early process of governance. This is why, for example, there are new people, new governing body that is going to be elected here. I think it's following Rare Evo. We're going to be doing the new Cardano Constitution. There's a lot of things that are taking place in this process, right? This is the first truly democratic, pure, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. It's you guys get what I'm saying, right? It is the first true pure form of a self-governing body in crypto. It's very different than anything you see. And of course, there's going to be growing pains. Now, something I want to remind people of as well is that just because, IOG spearheads a lot of this development and it does not have to be adopted by the Cardano blockchain, right? You have to remember that each one of these hard forks that we've done, you have to have staking pool operators actually switch to the new node version. You have to have them adopt that. They don't have to do that, right? That's just always the process that's taken place. You could have the community now with governance vote against any changes. That's kind of where we're at right now. Okay. Now, again, we have a lot of life cycles still ahead of us in Cardano and probably a lot more changes and iterations that are going to take place as time moves on. Maybe again, as a community, we vote to adopt major stables or move money to more marketing. I mean, there's a lot of things that again can help change this path that we're on in terms of Cardano. Now, what he also said lastly is a recent revolt from Ada Whale against Charles is solid proof of this fundamental conflict between expertise-based peer-reviewed development and voting power-based development. Most of the time, the mass population has no idea what's going on with high-end technologies such as those involved in Cardano. And I do agree that most people have no idea what's going on in terms of Cardano. And I haven't really weighed in on the disagreement between Charles Hoskinson and Ada Whale. And for those that aren't familiar, it was basically this back and forth between whether selling $100 million worth of ADA would impact the price. And for someone that is familiar with OTC buying, that's familiar with liquidity bulls, Ada Whale was wrong. Okay. And I don't really want to take a hard line on this. Guys, there is a lot of backdoor trading that is done. There's a lot of changing of hands that can take place in terms of supply that does not impact price. This has been the case for a very long period of time. You see it in terms of BTC and Ethereum all the time. The order books behind the scenes that don't affect price, the OTC stuff, it's huge. Okay. So yes, if it was open, took place on the open market and there was a bunch of selling that took place, yeah, it would impact the price. It wouldn't collapse ADA like Ada Whale was saying, but yes, it would impact and move price then. But there are ways to do things where they don't have the type of impact, the catastrophic impact, like was expressed by Ada Whale. And again, not to dog him, he's done great stuff for the community. Tons of great information. I followed him on Twitter for a very long time until obviously he deleted his account. So, and maybe you guys disagree, and that's fine. This is a space that we have the ability to disagree. And the nice thing now, guys, is we can always put it to a vote, okay? Whether that's in the comment section, whether that's through ADA governance. I mean, this is truly something different in crypto. It's the purest form of crypto. It's crypto that is truly decentralized, done by the people, for the people. So that's all I got for you guys. I appreciate you as always. I can't even remember where we started the video at, but let's have a great day. Let's have a great weekend, and let's see how great we can make Cardano. So have a great day. Show your love below. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.